In this video, we're going to learn about message boxes, input boxes, and concatenating messages. To begin, I'm going to open Excel, and I'm going to open the file that we used in part 1. We didn't do much with it, but we're going to have all of our tutorials, except for the second one, all be in the same file so that we have one centralized location to store all of our VBA examples. So I'm opening the week 4 tutorials. If you don't have it, you can start a new file and save as week 4 tutorials. But in sheet 1, as you can see in the developer, we had a macro called Hello World. So I'm going to, when I run that, we get a message box that says Hello World. And I'm just going to name the worksheet Hello World to separate it. So let's look at our code by going to Visual Basic. And we have a message box that says Hello World. So we could change it to something else. I can change it to Hello Mark. And I could go into my macro, and I could run it again, and now it says Hello Mark. In the dog recommendation in part 2, we were a little limited in our inputs by only having yes or no responses. So there's a different way to get input from user that's kind of open-ended called an input box. So I'm going to set a variable name, input name, equal to an input box. And when you have an input box, you always have to have a prompt to go along with it. So the user has to know what they're inputting. So I'm going to put a phrase, and I'm going to type, what is your name? And I need to have parentheses around that. And I'll put a question mark in. So the prompt has to be in quotes. So it asks, what is your name? And by coincidence, my name happens to also be the message box. But currently the message box is hard-coded. It says Hello Mark no matter how you run the code. So if I go and run it again, and I run Hello World, it asks, what is your name? I'll put LeBron James, and it still says Hello Mark. So let's change this message box to, instead of saying Hello Mark, to put hello, and then I'm going to concatenate that by putting this @ symbol, and I'm going to include whatever name they included. So whatever the contents of input name is. Notice that I put a space after the hello. That's just sort of for punctuation so that the input name isn't right up against it. So look what happens when I don't have a space after that. So let me go back and run Hello World again. I'm going to put a form box in there. And I'm going to change button 1 to what is your name, and click away. So now when I run it, I say my name is LeBron James, and it says hello LeBron James, but the hello and the LE are right next to each other. So I'm going to go and I'm going to modify that. by putting the space in, and now when I run it, it has a space after LeBron James. Let me add a exclamation point at the end. So I'm going to put another concatenate in and put in an exclamation point. Now that has to be in quotes because it's a text value. If I just had an exclamation point, I would get an error. Now I can run this from here by clicking the Run button from the VBA window, and it assumes that you're using the last used worksheet. So I'll put my own name in this time, and I get the exclamation point. Let me do one more example. So now I'm going to have an input number, and I'm going to have an input box again. And this time I'm going to concatenate the text in the that goes along with the input box, similar to how I did the message box. So this time I'm going to piece together a message in the second input box. So I'm going to put hello and then a space with a comma, and then I'm going to concatenate input name, and then I'm going to have a second concatenate where I'm asking them what their favorite number is, and I'm putting a space in front of the second question so that doesn't jam up against it. And then in the message box, rather than just saying hello, I'm going to put the results of both of our inputs. So I'm going to put input name, and then I'm going to piece that together with a fixed phrase, your favorite number is, and then input number. So I'm putting together three things here. So it should say whatever they put for the input number. LeBron James, your favorite number is, and then whatever number they put. So the code is being executed sequentially. This line, then this line, then this line. If I were to move the message box up to the top, it wouldn't have any values to put in yet. So you have to think of this as being a step-by-step process. So let me run it again. This time I'll put Michael Jordan as the name. I'm sorry I can't zoom in on input boxes. And it says, hello Michael Jordan, what is your favorite number? I could use some punctuation here, but I'll put 23, and it says, Michael Jordan, your favorite number is 23. Again, could use some punctuation, but I can add that to it later. But the basics are there. So let me stop here, and then we'll learn about using the spreadsheet as input or output in our next tutorial.